On the morning of Mother's Day, Grace awoke before the sun. Outside her modest home on the edge of a western town, sparrows chirped and the light slipped through the curtains, stirring the quiet air. She looked at the clock, 6 o'clock. Normally, she would have slept longer, but today her body moved before her mind. Perhaps it was the faint excitement she had felt since the night before. When her daughter Emily had mentioned a special outing, Grace washed her face, sat before the mirror, and studied herself. Wrinkles around her eyes, silver strands in her hair, a softened jawline. She smiled quietly. "Today is for me," she thought. From the drawer she pulled out a pink lipstick. She hadn't worn since her husband passed away. The reflection was unfamiliar, but it lifted her mood. The house was busy. Emily prepared breakfast, insisting her mother eat only a little porridge. So she could enjoy lunch more. Grace obeyed, though a strange emptiness rose inside her. Her granddaughter Sophie, fresh from the shower, teased her with playful energy, promising to take photos together. On the dining table sat a small cake box, strawberries peeking through the clear lid. Grace smiled, believing her daughter had remembered her favorite. Everything that morning felt like a perfect scene from a movie. Grace didn't know that the warmth of it would later become the coldest memory of her life. Emily carried a handbag and told her mother to relax. David, her son-in-law, would drive. Even his small gesture of opening the car door felt special. Grace thought, "Today I am treated kindly simply because I am a mother." She settled into the back seat, watching sunlight flicker through the trees. Will there be another day like this? She wondered. The car drove for 20 minutes. The scenery shifted, fields stretched out. Barns appeared, the city faded behind them. Grace assumed they were heading to a new restaurant outside town. But something felt off. Emily wasn't chatting the way she usually did. She only fiddled with her phone, repeating that they were almost there. David's face was tense, fixed on the road. Grace looked down at the carnation in her hand. A moment ago, it had seemed lovely. Now it felt strangely out of place. The navigation was off, the radio silent. Only the hum of the engine filled the air. Grace's hands trembled slightly. Surely not today, she thought. But intuition rarely comes without reason. Finally, the car stopped before a red brick building. A small sign read Silver Care House. Grace understood everything. This was not a spontaneous outing. It was planned. Her daughter and son-in-law had prepared a quiet removal. Inside, the lobby lights were harsh. A banner on the wall read, "For the comfort of our seniors." A nurse greeted them cheerfully. The room assigned to Grace was small, one bed, one cabinet, one window. Empty, without warmth? She realized then she was being left behind. Days passed. Grace lived in that room, eating lukewarm porridge, taking pills from trays. Staff were polite but distant. She was not a person, only a patient to be managed. One afternoon she opened the desk drawer. Inside was an old notebook, her late husband's careful records of household expenses, medical bills, insurance. She turned the pages and found an account number, her seal copied beside it. Her daughter had taken control of that account long ago, saying it was easier if she handled it. Grace had never seen the statements. Suspicion grew. The next morning, she asked to be taken to the bank. At the counter, she discovered the truth. Large sums had been withdrawn regularly. Insurance payouts, too. Over $10,000 gone since last fall. Her chest tightened with betrayal. She signed papers to freeze the account, cancel the automatic transfers, revoke her daughter's authority. Walking back, she remembered every time Emily had said, "Mom, you don't need to worry about paperwork. I'll handle it." What she thought was care had been convenience. Grace returned to the care home, pulled out old photo albums. In every picture, she was there, baking cakes for birthdays, standing by hospital beds, smiling at Emily's wedding, but never resting, always serving. That was her life as a mother. A few days later, Emily called. Grace answered quietly, saying she would now handle her own affairs. There was no apology, no explanation. That night, under the strong moonlight, Grace opened a white envelope. Inside were documents from a lawyer termination of authority, notes on property division, a request to leave the care home. She whispered, "Now I will take care of myself." The next day she walked out. Grace now lived in a small townhouse on the outskirts of a western city. One bedroom, a kitchen, a tiny balcony. It wasn't much, but it was hers. No one's eyes to watch her, no one's decisions to bind her. She watered the flowers on her balcony each morning. Evening primroses bloomed at dusk, their beauty unfolding in the fading light. She learned to use her phone, checked her bank balance, ordered groceries online. She joined yoga classes at the senior center. A friend asked if she was okay living alone. Grace answered that even when you live with others, loneliness comes. But when you live alone and protect yourself, that is true happiness. On Mother's Day, the doorbell rang. Grace opened the door. Emily, David, and Sophie stood there, holding flowers and a cake, their eyes cautious. Emily's voice trembled as she admitted she had not understood back then. Grace stood silently. The wind slipped through the doorway. She reminded her daughter that there had been no calls for a long time. Sophie stepped forward shyly, offering a handmade paper carnation. Grace looked at it for a long moment, then slowly reached out her hand. She let them in. On the table was a pot of pumpkin porridge she had cooked. Sophie ate happily, laughing, and Grace's lips curved into a quiet smile. Emily asked if they could visit again. Grace paused, then said she would decide. Emily nodded, tears falling silently. That day, they shared a time deeper than words. The past could not be erased, but the future's door was now in Grace's hands. The next morning, Grace watered her flowers and sipped coffee on the balcony. On the table lay a small envelope her daughter had left a letter, a photo, and Sophie's note promising they would eat together next time. Grace folded the letter and placed it in her drawer. She whispered to herself, "Now I choose. Who I meet, how I spend my days, when I smile, when I stop. I am no longer someone to be chosen. I am the one who chooses." And with that, she lifted her cup, drank deeply, and smiled toward the warm western sun.